These teenage boys killed their teacher because they got a bad grade in her class. Nohema Graber was a fantastic woman. She was originally from Mexico, born in Veracruz on November 10th, 1954. She was a flight attendant for 17 years, and that's where she really developed a passion for travel and flying. And that's when she decided to do something that was practically unheard of for a woman in 1970, and that was to start training to become a pilot. And Nohema Graber became the first woman in Mexico and one of the first women in the entire world to be trained to be a commercial airline pilot. She was an extremely impressive, passionate, hardworking person. In 1986, Nohema married an old flame that she met while she was in high school. Paul Graber hit her up when he was on a business trip in Mexico. They reconnected, and the rest was history. The couple moved to Paul's hometown in America, Fairfield, Iowa, a small rural town. There they raised their 3 children, and after Nohema's kids were grown, she had trouble staying still. So when Nohema was in her 50s, she decided to have a career change. She went back to college. She got a bachelor's degree in English to become a teacher. Nohema became a Spanish teacher at the local high school, and by 2021 she was teaching Spanish at Fairfield High School, and she was truly loved by everyone, but especially her students. Nohema was a creature of habit. Every single day after school she would wind down by taking a little stroll in the local park, but on November 2nd, 2021 she never came home. And her loved ones were immediately concerned. They're calling her, she's not picking up. They drive by the school and the park. There's no signs of her or her van, so they report her missing. The following day, on November 3rd, an extensive search was done of the park, and tragically later that day, the body of 66-year-old mother of 3 Spanish teacher Nohema Graber was found in the park. Nohema had been beaten to death, and her body was hidden off of the park under a tarp and under a wheelbarrow. And later that day, her van was found abandoned miles away on a dirt road in town. Extremely quickly, over half a dozen people came forward, all pointing fingers at the same people. It all started when police got word that about 45 minutes after Nohema was usually starting her walks at the park, her van was seen being driven around by 2 teenage boys. And then some of the students at the high school started coming forward, all pointing fingers at the same 2 teenage boys. The day that their Spanish teacher's body was found, one of the students came forward saying the night before, which was the night that she was murdered, one of their classmates were sending them some really bizarre Snapchats. The first one was a bottle of bleach that read, "Time to hide a body." The next one showed the boy in a mask, and the Snapchat read, "POV, you're my Spanish teacher, and this is the last thing you see." The next one was, "No, I'm actually ready, here we go," and then "New wheelbarrow, who this?" And these Snapchats were all sent by Fairfield High School student 16-year-old Jeremy Goodell. 16-year-old Jeremy came from a very bad home life. He was the youngest of 5 kids, pretty much being raised by his older sister in a situation that honestly really reminds me of the show Shameless. The parents were extremely neglectful. The mom pretty much abandoned the family to be with some other guy, and the home was in really poor condition and was really dirty. And then more and more students started going to the police with concerns about Jeremy's best friend, another 16-year-old high school student, Willard Chaden Miller. Willard had apparently been saying at school for weeks and maybe even months that he hated his Spanish teacher and she might just get up and disappear one day. Willard was saying that he was stalking his Spanish teacher after school so he could memorize her schedule, that his Spanish teacher ruined his life, that he hated her and he wanted her dead. Willard was really angry with the Spanish teacher Nohema Graber because he got an F in her class, and that brought his GPA down and also made it so he couldn't join the Spanish class for a trip to Spain that summer. Willard was seen in school a lot arguing with Miss Graber over this F, but she wouldn't change it just because he wanted her to. What started as just dark jokes became real plans to murder his teacher. And Willard began asking all of his friends to help him kill their teacher, and his best friend, Jeremy Goodell, agreed, and they started planning her murder for weeks. And that day, on November 2nd, they followed her to the park that she always went to after school, and they took turns beating her to death with a baseball bat. Both boys were brought in for questioning, and Willard probably had the strangest story I've ever heard for the police. He said that day he was at that park, he saw his teacher, they waved at each other, they said hi to each other, but then a group of masked teenage boys jumped out and forced Willard to watch them murder his teacher, also forced Willard to help murder his teacher, and then also forced Willard to hide her body. Yeah, he actually tried to go with that story. There was so much evidence against these boys. In a search of both of their homes, they found bloody clothes, strands of their teacher's hair, and also a bloody baseball bat, which was the murder weapon. And on Willard's phone, in his notes app, he planned the entire murder. I'm gonna read it out to you, so I'm gonna be looking this way. In his notes app, he wrote prep, and under prep, he wrote bush clippers, sticks, garden gloves, plastic trash bag, Ziploc bag, wet wipes, backpack, hammer, cover, transport vehicle. Stun, move off trail, empty compartments, load cargo, blanket cargo, deactivate compartment contents, leave bag by exit, transport, empty transport, safety stun, switch gloves, deactivate article to bag, finalize the win, secure victory, load into storage spot, don't forget to close the door to the ground, switch gloves, move the sticks, wipe down the tools, dispose article, and grab bag by exit, done. In this time, Willard was also using his phone to Google the most guilty Google searches I've ever read. Willard Googled, do students receive credit for class if the teacher is seriously injured or dies more than halfway through the course? He also Googled, what happens to students' work if the teacher dies in the middle of the term? Both boys tried to blame the other one for their teacher's murder, and both of them originally pled not guilty. But Jeremy later changed his plea to guilty and even agreed to testify against his best friend. But after hearing that, Willard also changed his plea to guilty, so neither of them went to trial. The state of Iowa does not sentence juvenile criminals to life in prison without the possibility of parole. So Jeremy Goodall in November of 2023 was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. For what it's worth, even though in my opinion I don't think it's worth a lot, Jeremy does at least seem remorseful for killing his teacher, or at least a lot more remorseful than Willard does. Jeremy says that he does not know why he helped his best friend kill Nohema Graber. He said that he took her class, he passed her class, and thought that she was a nice teacher. The general consensus amongst the public is that Willard Miller was the mastermind and also the driving force in this murder scheme, and his best friend Jeremy, who came from a bad home, kind of just went along with it. Willard's mother has continued to defend her son, even saying that Nohema Graber's class was too hard. I don't know why that matters at all. That doesn't make it okay to kill your teacher. And she tried to get her son's interrogation and entire case thrown out completely. Willard Miller was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 35 years, and his judge said in his case that if Iowa allowed life in prison without the possibility of parole for juveniles, it's something that he would have really considered. During both boys' sentencing, they both took the opportunity to get up and apologize to Nohema's family, but when it came to Willard, it seemed like he was trying not to laugh and that he was like smiling and just not genuine at all.
I would like to take this opportunity to wholeheartedly accept responsibility for the role that I've played in the murder of Nohema Graber. I would like to apologize for my actions, first and foremost, to the family. I'm sincerely sorry for the distress that I've caused you and the devastation I've caused your family. And from the bottom of my heart, I am sorry for your loss. I'm sorry to hear about Paul Graber.
I know this was a long video, so if you made it to the end, thank you so much for listening to Nohema Graber's story. My heart truly goes out to her family and all of her loved ones. She really, really did seem like a remarkable woman. While you're in the comments, please remember to always be respectful. You do not know who's in the comments. Someone that knew and loved Nohema in real life could be in the comments, so please be respectful. While you're in the comments, please let me know what case you want to see me cover next. Thank you to everyone that suggested that I cover Nohema's story today, and I will see you guys all next time in my next video.